Hello and welcome to Take You to School with Dr. Tom Prichard. I'm your host, JP John Paz. Of course, joining me, the star of the show, former WWE World Tag Team Champion, 8-time Smoky Mountain Wrestling Tag Team Champion, one of the greatest trainers ever in the history of the business, the Doctor of Desire himself, Dr. Tom Prichard. Dr. Tom, how you doing today, sir?
John, I'm doing great today. Thank you for asking. Get a little rain and snow and ice and blizzards here on a nice July night. But other than that, everyone's good. Started a new week at JPWA. 10 people, one person coming all the way from France, which is awesome. So we're doing good.
Wow, you mentioned that last week too. France.
Yeah.
I mean, that's crazy. I guess he's just a big wrestling fan. He knows you. He knows JPWA, and he decided to come over.
I guess so. Doing the research and found out. And we've had people from India, Germany, Puerto Rico, hell, uh, Crossville, Tennessee. So anyway, no, it's really kind of cool. Um, he came all this way and is going to spend the next 12 weeks in the beautiful city in Knoxville in the beautiful state of Tennessee. So
Nice.
it's kind of a cool class.
Ibsen says hello. Hello, Ibsen.
Ibsen, yes, and Charles
Dr.
Wilson.
Tom, Charles
I don't
Wilson.
Charles.
Nice.
I know Charles.
Bob
No, I don't.
Donnell. Hello, Dr. Tom.
Hello, Bob.
Matty R. Dr. Tom, Job Paz. Hey, Matty R. What's going on? So, Dr. Tom, you know that guy's got big shoes to fill, right? You realize
Yes.
that.
Uh, who has big shoes to
The
fill?
Frenchman. The
Vincent.
Frenchman.
Well, I think everybody has big shoes to fill. Everybody came with big dreams and aspirations. So that's the cool part about starting at the beginning and going through all these weeks. And I got to tell you, in Knoxville, this is our fourth summer class. And this is the most brutal because the sun is hot and we're in a hot building. And you're gonna you're gonna find out a lot about yourself, I think. So, but it's very cool. Yeah, this guy and the Flying Frenchman, Eduardo Carpentier. Yes. Hmm.
Yeah.
So we'll see, man. It's a great mix this round, and we have an even number, which is even better. So, it'll be very very cool to watch.
Yes.
Hmm.
Is Max related to Rene Dupree?
Max who?
Max
Dupree?
Dupree from LA Knight. from
I thought he was talking about Max Secondhouse.
uh,
Anyway, hell, I don't know. I
no,
highly doubt
it's
it.
spelled different though. It's spelled
Well,
different.
that too, but that's not the Rene Dupree's real name, so no, they're not related. Although they
What?
might be. What?
Oh.
What?
Are you sure it's not Rene Dupree? What about Anil Dupree? His dad?
I don't think Emil Dupree is his real name either. I think it's kind of like the Welch family in wrestling, Robert and Ron Fuller, and
Yeah. Yep.
yeah, I think that's how it works out. But I could be wrong.
Bob wants to know if Kane
Uh,
with a K, by the way, pays a
Kane has
visit.
certainly has occasionally dropped by, and he does when he gets a chance.
And Bruce and Undertaker and Sheamus
Yeah,
and Big E. I mean, you had a lot.
we've had a lot of guys drop by, which is really, really
Natalia, Sasha Banks, Bailey.
cool. Mhm. Yeah. So you never know who's going to step foot in JPWA.
Now, I
Learn
wanted to
a lot.
talk to you about a guy that maybe you weren't close with, maybe you weren't buddies with, but Carmen calls him Hickenbottom, but we'll call him Shawn Michaels just because I want to talk about him several weeks ago. I know you guys did a little bit of history together, some matches together, so just want to talk to you about Shawn Michaels. When did you first meet HBK? Was it all the way back in 1987?
I think it was even before '87 because I don't know what town it was, but I know it was in the Louisiana territory. It wasn't UWF at that time. It was Mid South, right?
Yep.
Right. Okay. So um, yeah, I remember I worked with Sean one time in Mid South, and the next meeting would have been in Alabama. So yeah, that was Mid South would be 86, 85 or 86. I'm not sure, but yeah, that's back to the mid '80s. Either way, he was a
What
San
did you?
Antonio. Yeah, he was a San Antonio guy, and Jose Lothario was training guys. I think after that, after his run with Houston and in that office. So
What did you think about him at that point?
he was very good at that point. He was young. You saw he had that drive. You could see it in his eye. You could tell he was being respectful. When we start out, especially the guys who usually good have the confidence, but they understand they also have to say yes or no, sir, and learn how to get along. And Shawn did that early on.
Here's a good question from Ibsen. Did Shawn ever rub it in your face that he was with Sonny behind Skip's back? Did he ever mention that relationship to you or anybody for that matter?
No, 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 no. Nobody had to rub it in the face. It was already being. Everybody knew it was an open secret. Nobody was hiding anything very well. It was a really uncomfortable time for me back at that time because I loved Chris to death. He was a great guy, and it was heartbreaking to watch. Uh, and I don't. He never. I do remember a time when we were working out in the gym, and Louis Spicoli said something, and I said something, and Chris kicked a bag on the ground and got pissed, but he would get mad, but he never wanted to. Chris didn't want to hurt anybody. I don't even know if he had it in him to hurt anybody, but it hurt him, and that was a hard part. Um, Knowing what was going on, nobody had to tell anybody anything. Well, because you were going to hear it whether you wanted to or not, and it was obvious. And gosh, man, that's you think about that, and if you know anybody who's going through stuff like that, you know how hard it is on them if you're uh, close at all. And I knew Chris and Tammy both when they were just starting out and young guys. And well, Chris had been around for a few years by that time anyway. When I met him, I think he was maybe 19 or 20. So and he loved the business so much, and he reminded a lot of us when he came to Smoky Mountain of us at that age, being so enthusiastic and being so passionate and being so in love with wrestling at that time because that was all you wanted to do and you were getting to do it. You just didn't need that baggage. Tammy was not the one he needed on the ride, but she's the one who hypnotized him, I guess. So, no, we it sucked, but that was that was the environment back then.
Man, and her saying like, "Oh, he's the best lover I ever had." I mean, it must have killed Chris. You know what I mean? Saying shit like that to everybody. Ugh.
Yeah, yeah. And what do you do? I remember, and I don't really like talking about this a whole lot, but since we're going to, and I'm just here's what happened. We were coming from the airport, and we all got on the shuttle, and Tammy is in one of her short skirts, and being Tammy, and it was Razor, Shawn, Kid, Diesel, and they were flirting right there in the open, and so we got to the rooms, and I came downstairs for something, and I saw Davey, and Davey said, "Go talk to him." Chris was in another room in this hotel downstairs, and I don't remember. Um, anyway, I found him in the room because he left Tammy in their room. They got in a fight, obviously, and he went downstairs and he's kind of sitting, not a conference room, but just a room off to the side. And I told him, man, she can't do that. I was telling him, I said, Chris, you've got to have a talk with her. She can't do that in front of the boys. She can't do it in front of you. She can't treat you like that because it's not going to end and it's going to get worse. So I went up with him, and this was my first interaction where I saw the complete explosion. We came in, and I said, Tammy, you can't do that when Chris is right there. You can't. it's not going to be good for either one of you. And she said, well, what about me? What about me? What about if I want to? What about me? And I went, whoa, okay. Boy, I've been in some battles. I've been in some foreign countries like that. So, no, there's no winning that. The only way you win that is you cut ties and you leave and get out of there.
Yeah.
So, and Shawn found that out too. Shawn was never in it for the long run at all. I don't believe. But anyway, didn't have to rub anybody's face into it. It just kind of happened. Good evening, Herb.
Hello, Herb. Yes. And Barbara. Hello, Barbara. Good
Barbara,
to see you.
hello.
Yes. I remember seeing him in the early AWA opening card with Marty Jannetty. Look at that.
Well, and that was during the end days, obviously. So things were changing, but he was making rounds because that was about the only other place to go, I guess.
We'll get back into Michael's 1 second. We got a question. Do you remember TV tapings in Brantford, Ontario, Canada?
I never did TV in Canada. I never really. I only worked a couple times in Canada, so I do not have a memory of the TV tapings in Brantford.
You had a bunch of matches in Ontario, though. You had the Smoke and Guns matches back in '95 against the Heavenly Bodies. I know you had a couple matches in Canada. Well, a bunch of matches in Canada, but a couple in Ontario.
Yeah, probably so. I mean,
looks like house shows. It doesn't look like TV tapings.
Right. And honest to God, I have friends who can tell you where they were, what night, and
Right.
where they stayed, what road they went down, all this stuff. I mean, when I got on the plane and started the loop, as long as I just knew which to connect on and where we were going, just get me there. If I got to drive, just tell me how to go. I didn't really. I mean, I explored, but yeah, I might have.
Do you know that Jericho? You know, Jericho wrote a book, and it's literally he had every match he ever had listed in this book.
Yeah,
and towns and payoffs and who he wrestled, and very detailed.
Well, that's good. I mean, and I've done that for a little bit, but I don't know if it was subconsciously or actually consciously. I said to myself, I could enjoy this a lot more if I put a lot less thought into taking everything and just experiencing everything. You know what I mean? Not worrying about the details of the trip. Just enjoy the activities while you're there, or while you're running that way. But holy smoke, yeah, I have a hard time remembering to tell you where I was at last night, and it was just right over here. I was at the same place, but sometimes I have to think, where was I? It's running into those times again, John, and I know you've had them. And just to go off this path real quick, and people have them where you get going, and you'll wake up at a certain time, and you'll start your day and do what you have to do, and before you know it, it's time to be where you need to be, and then you do that, and you get home, and you're continuing on what you didn't get finished, and then you wake up the next day and do it again, and you think that's been like 3 weeks ago. But in reality, it was like 3 days. And that's kind of what I'm finding myself in now. We're getting busy, and hopefully we'll get even more busier. So,
Oh yeah.
Well, yeah.
Got a Shawn Michaels question here. How much damage did he cause, and how much did Marty Jannetty hold Michaels back in those early years?
Well, I don't know how much damage did Shawn cause?
Yeah.
As far as what?
I don't know. Actually, that's a good question. But I know him and Marty were big party animals, and they would actually cause some physical damage to some bars and hotel rooms and cars and stuff.
But once again, it's those kind of people who make things happen. And looking back, I love looking back on a lot of the old concert footage and hearing about concerts that were happening in the '60s and '70s. That type of era can never happen again. It just um,
Yeah, not these
not the
days.
excesses.
Yeah.
Yeah, the excess and the bands and the culture's different. But back then, Sean and Marty were living for today, and that was it. So I don't know how much damage he's done, but uh, I don't think Marty held Sean back. I think
You
I think it was. I think for real quick, I think without that part of the story goes off in a different direction, and it landed just the way it was supposed to land.
So you guys, meaning you and Michaels, had some matches in '87 in CCW in Birmingham, Alabama. One at the Boutwell Auditorium, the other at the Fairgrounds. One was a tag match. It was you and Mike Golden against Janetti and Michaels, obviously Midnight Rockers. And then Midnight Rockers and Danny Davis, your buddy, birthday boy, defeated you, Mike Golden, and Jonathan Boyd. So just two matches in '87 early on for you and HBK. So not much of a history, but a little bit of a history there. More of history in the WWF.
Yeah, yeah. And I think I worked with Shawn once or a couple times in WWF. That was just more like uh, because they didn't have anybody else to put him in there with. I guess I don't know. But I'll tell you this: you can't deny Sean's talent. You can't deny that he's a hell of a worker. You can't deny that he knows how to get heat. He's authentic in everything he does. Um, and again, those are the kind of people that makes the world spin, makes people at least notice. And you don't have to like him, and I don't really think he cares if anybody likes him. Maybe he does today. I don't know. But either way, especially when you get to that point in your career and you look back, and some people, I was in Dothan last weekend, and I had a discussion with a couple people. It's it's guys which I really enjoyed being around, sitting around talking about things that in a million years, if you told me they'd be talking about uh, the things they're talking about now, I would have laughed you silly. I mean, now we're talking about uh, I don't want to do the same things. Yes, I have sinned, and oh look, man, I'm trying to be a better person and stuff like that. And I'm thinking, holy Christ, that's what yeah, what the hell happened? I don't remember this,
What the hell
but
happened to Jimmy Golden? What's
yeah.
going on with him? Yeah.
So we had that discussion. I'm going, okay. I get there, but maybe Sean's doing that. Maybe he's not. I have no idea where his head's at. I don't care. I have no idea where his heart's at, and I don't care. As long as he's happy and doing his own thing, I'll be happy doing my own thing. But
Got a good question here from Matty R about HBK. In my opinion, at least, Shawn is one of the best during his time. What would you say is his biggest strength and his biggest weakness?
um, well, I don't know these days, obviously, because I'm not around him. But I think back in the time I was around him, his biggest strength was he understood how to connect. He understood how to communicate, and it could be a negative or positive reaction, and he knew how to get people at least to react. He's like that Gino Hernandez. Love him, hate him, or don't care. There is no don't care. You're going to feel one way or another about the guy, whether he's either bullshit, nothing, or man, he makes me so pissed, or he makes me so happy. And I think Sean's the same way. You couldn't deny his talent. He had that attitude, and you can't pretend that. You can't make that manufactured. It has to be real. It has to come from inside, and that's Shawn Michaels. Has he changed? I couldn't tell you. I haven't been around him in years, but I know I've talked to some people who tell me they've changed, and I don't believe it. So
Thing with me, like if you say biggest strength, biggest weakness, he's such a good wrestler that sometimes he would have a bad match, and you're like, what is he doing out there? Or like do something psychology wise, like SummerSlam '05 with Hogan, and he do something psychology wise where he's like ambushing his own match. Like, what is he doing? Because he's so good, he could be bad, and you kind of detect that he's doing it on purpose. You know what I mean? Like some guys have an off night. He would have an off night on purpose sometimes.
It's called immaturity, I
Yeah.
believe is what people
Yeah.
labeled it. And that those are times I would hope he looks back and says, but once again, I don't know. Because you can't change the past. You have to keep looking forward. And it got him where he was. It made him Mr. WrestleMania. Not necessarily that match, but having that attitude and being as brazen as to say, I don't care how big of a star you were, I'm the man now, forever, now, then, forever, or whatever,
Yep.
or whatever. So he was that good where he could go out and you knew he'd be sabotaged, but then you got to think about the selfishness of that too. And some guys, I mean, I think you've always had guys like that. And I've always thought Shawn kind of reminded me of a Buddy Rogers in a way, who would have the guys come in and he'd work with them and take Buddy's boys would take care of Buddy. And Shawn had people around him do the same thing. He had that kind of stroke. He could work with whoever he wanted to. And now all he had to do was say, hey, this is who I'm going to work with.
The thing is, though, he was never, ever a big draw. I know on the opposing time when he's champion, they had the NWO starting up, and that just completely derailed his title run, and nobody was interested in it, and everybody's flicking over WCW. But that also says a little bit about him. Nobody was really interested. So, yes, he was a great wrestler, but he was never a big draw or a big money maker ever. Brett was a bigger draw and a bigger money maker than Shawn, which people forget, but kind of strange with him. Like, he shouldn't have as much stroke because he wasn't that good big of a draw.
Well, here's the other side of that coin. Obviously, he convinced somebody that he was worthy.
Right.
And in that sense, he drew because he was going to get paid. And he could talk whoever the influence was then into doing whatever he wanted to do. That is a worker. That is somebody who knows, hey, it's Putin. It's not me. If you just let me handle things, I'll make this right. Yeah, but we let you handle it, and look what happened. Well, okay, but just give me Vader. Let me have the belt. Pardon me, title, and it'll change. I promise. 1 year later, well, it hasn't changed. We got to take it off you. Hold on. I got one more thing up my sleeve. I mean, listen, we can switch Kevin. And then Scott will come in and something else will happen. So trust me, this next year is going to be awesome. You sure? Yeah. What? You don't trust me? So
it's funny though. As soon as Vince,
maybe he wasn't, huh? Yeah.
Well,
maybe
as soon
he
as
wasn't
Vince
drawing in the house, but he was being taken care of, and that to be able to manipulate and do that takes talent.
But to me, it's like, okay, as soon as Vince got a hold of Stone Cold Steve Austin, he's like, see you later, Michaels, and your fake smile and your fake knee injury. You're like, I got a real star here. Like, I got a real draw. Like, see it. Like, he kicked him to the curb pretty damn quick.
Yeah, but he's still there today.
Yeah,
because
and running NXT.
That's how it works. And it takes some people longer than others to figure out that this is the way the world works. In any major corporation, you want people around you that you want to be around, you want to trust, like, and know they have your back. You never know if they have your back or not until you're in that situation. So, Shawn was part of the biggest for this lifetime or for this era, I guess, screw job. There have been screw jobs throughout wrestling, but Vince has a connection, a deep connection. I guess, to Shawn. I don't know the particulars, but it was he couldn't let Brett leave Canada with.
Speaking of, JLC said opinion on the screw job was Michael's in on it. So perfect timing.
Of course he was in on it. Everybody was in on it except Brett. Everybody knew what was going on except Brett. So yeah, and Shawn has admitted it many times over. Um, it's it's the craziest thing when it comes down to stuff like that in the business, and then it you realize it's not just about the belt. It's not just about the title. It is about respect, and it is about doing the right thing, and it is about just having some common courtesy. But unfortunately, nice guys do finish last, and uh, not that everybody who lives in a nice, rich, nice house or whatever, or has a lot of money are assholes, but I don't think it happens just by saying, "Hey, I sure do. I sure am a nice guy." So Shawn was in on it. Everybody was in on it. Brett was trying to be honorable in a gang of dishonorable people. So
Mike D again with the we always get the Hall of Fame question
yeah,
about Hakeem and the one man game. Throw them both in there, right?
yeah, I
We
agree.
always get that question from Mike, but I
Yes,
throw both of those guys in there. Yeah,
yes, one man gang definitely does, but
yes.
throw them both. I agree.
Barber said he got mad at Vader, meaning Shawn Michaels got mad at scream. This is SummerSlam '96. He was screaming at him because it really remember he came down off the top rope and Vader didn't move, and Michaels came down instead of improvising. He goes, "Move, fat ass," and he kicked him in the
Yeah.
head.
Well, there's certainly a different way to get your point across, whether it's less subtle or more
Yeah,
subtle than that. But um, I think Shawn would tell you this too. During that time, there were a lot of factors to figure in. There were a lot of elements that a lot of people weren't privy to, and the internet wasn't as prevalent then. I guess was it? The internet wasn't like it is
not
now.
'96. It was just starting. It was very
Yeah, very very new.
yep.
So, uh, and it was still kind of the boys backstage, and it was still kind of had those pirate unwritten rules, and Shawn had he was wearing the black hat. He was he was guiding the pirate ship, and he could do and say whatever the hell he wanted. And if you don't like it, you don't have to listen. You don't have to watch. I'll just go home. Well, it was one of those things that who are you going to replace him with? He may be an asshole, but he's our asshole type thing. And there were people who loved him. Who was really drawing? I think at that time Vince knew you just lost Scott Hall and Kevin Nash, and uh, they were making waves and things were changing. You got to do with what you got to do. Fight with the army you got, not the one you wish you had, I guess. And so having tantrums and throwing these hissy fits and whatever, I guess that was just Shawn's way of doing things. And Vince was willing to put up with it because there was nobody else that could even touch him, I guess, except Brett. But once again, Brett, and I don't know if this is the case or to be true or not, but Vince is not a big wrestling fan. He's an entertainment fan. He wants characters. And Brett can go out there and tell a story and work and have a believable match and put things together and have drama and authenticity. And Shawn wanted to do, his stuff, and that's cool. But he also had a lack of respect for anybody except who he wanted to respect and who had anything to help him with. What can you do for me? Type
Yep.
thing. Yeah, and that's part of the dog eat dog show business and professional wrestling. It's been around since the dawn of time, I guess. Shawn didn't invent being an asshole.
Hey, maybe the fart doctor's got an asshole comment, but I love it. He says, "I guarantee you, Prichard was looking at Shawn Michaels' junk in the locker room." Wow, what a statement from the
Well,
fart doctor!
first of all,
Wow,
I'll say to this, Mr. Fart Doctor, take the T out of
yeah.
Pritchard, put it on your back, and then get a dog, name it Life, and then you'd have one. Okay.
Good question here from Mark Stevens. Would Shawn have made a good manager? Have
I
you seen
yeah
any good managers today?
yeah I think Derek Manderford is a good manager. Paul Heyman, of course, still going and tremendous. But I think for a good manager, you have to know what you're there for, and that's to get the guys over. I don't know if Shawn can help, but try to make cute faces and get himself over. I don't know if he can. I'm sure he can. I don't know if he'd be willing to. I guess I should say.
Shawn works in the PC Center. Does he talk or ask the wrestlers to visit? Is there any sort of connection between JPWA and the PC at all? Is there any like, hey, come visit, anything like that?
Nope. I was I was who they replaced. Why would they want the replacement back? I don't know. No, no, nobody's asked me to do anything, but it's cool.
Would be smart though. You would think maybe.
Well, if Hunter didn't like my style or my way of doing things, then nah, he wouldn't have any interest in having me come back. I'm not. It's not that I believe my way is the only way. I just have a way of doing things, and um, there's. I think it boils down to personality, and I think it boils down to who do you want to deal with at the end of the day. Sometimes I'm not always the easiest guy to deal with, and it's not because I give you a hard time. It's just because I don't want to hear bullshit. I don't want to hear you tell me complete and utter bullshit. But that's life, and that's life in business. No matter where you go, it's all part of the game. It's all part of 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 being human beings. So I don't believe they would want me in there uh, explaining my way to do it or why or having a different take. That's my opinion.
The doctor here, Doctor How, what, where? He says that
Who,
HBK
what, where?
overrated.
He started it. Yeah. You know,
Well, rip off of the rock and roll, yeah.
yeah, but larceny has been alive and well for years, so it doesn't matter. And no, I don't know. Shawn had the aura of a star. He really did. He put on two great WrestleMania matches with Taker.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't think you can get overrated there when you're working with a guy like that who is as big as the Undertaker is. You never really notice how much smaller Shawn is. He looked like he belonged there. He was a credible opponent. So he pulled it off. Shawn did a lot of things that nobody else could do, in my opinion.
Mike, the fat white guy, was talking about the screw job in the Bret Hart Wrestling with Shadows. Says documentary cameras were very good at capturing the right moments. Maybe, maybe something's up with that.
No, but well, of course they were, and Brett was smart doing that. I don't know the once again, anybody who's ever been in that position where you need to go in and talk to somebody, the only person who can make this right, and you going in there and they assure you everything's going to be okay. We're going to do it this way, and everything's going to be fine. They assure you, and you are so at ease. It reminds me. I don't remember what episode it was of The Sopranos, where Tony and one of the other guys had got these two kids because they ripped some money off or did something, and they were been chasing them, and the kids were frantic. And all of a sudden, Tony says, come here, let's go in the garage, let's talk about this. Me and Guido, or whatever his name is, I don't know. And then Tony opens, gives them a Diet Coke, and gives them Diet Cokes, and they're calming down. He says, "Are you guys okay?" He goes, "Yeah." And then they start explaining. He goes, "No, no, no, shh, it's okay, it's okay. We got it covered." And they take a sip, and then he looks at the other guy, and they both pull out their guns, and he just wastes these two kids. Hey, don't worry, it's okay, man. Well, yeah, all right, now, boom, boom, boom. They pulled the trigger, and there it is. And that happens. It's not just showbiz, not just wrestling. I think there's parts in life where you promise something, or you go to somebody and they assure you. Trust me. Hey, man, we're gonna make. Oh, look, you want me to hug you now, or you want to hug me now because this is gonna happen? I'm gonna put this in your place. And no, please. I'd rather hear nothing. Don't make any promises you can't keep or won't keep. And there's a difference. You either can't keep it or you won't keep it. And so I'll go on those tangents too to say beware and understand that even though this snake has been defanged and it might be a tame snake, it's still a king cobra. It's a king cobra, one of the most deadliest snakes in the world in human form. And you when you're dealing with a snake, you have to be prepared because you don't know if it's telling you the truth. You don't know if it's going to bite you. But there's a great possibility, you know. It's what was it? Anyway, there was a deal like that where, you know, hey, trust me, I won't bite you.
Right.
You know, the scorpion and the frog going across the river, and the frog says, or the scorpion asked the frog for a ride. The frog said no, because you'll sting me. And the scorpion said, no, we need to get across to the river. And the frog says, you promise you won't sting me? The scorpion says, I promise, swear to God, cross my heart. Okay, get on. So they get to the middle of the river, and all of a sudden the scorpion stings a frog. And the frog says, why did you do that? Now we're both going to die. And the scorpion said, you knew I was a scorpion when I got on. Okay, that's on you.
Right.
you trusted the word. And so I have no hard feelings about that. So
From Ibsen, what's your honest take on Shawn losing his smile? What was said backstage that day?
well, not a lot, because they didn't know. Everybody knew that uh, not to, you know, it wouldn't do anybody any good. And if they did it to somebody else. I wasn't really good at picking up on gossip too much because it just it didn't bore me, but it sure as hell didn't make me want to be around it. So and backstage, I think everybody knew what what the deal was. Again, it was an upfront secret uh, that whatever those guys wanted to do, they were going to do. It's not a problem. It's been that way
Pretty
forever too.
crazy though. He can't job to Brett, whatever he's supposed to do at WrestleMania. He can't wrestle. His knee is so bad he lost his smile. Yet he's at WrestleMania, does a flip off the rope, and he's showing
Yes,
everybody that his knee is fine.
yes. Well, but that's goes back again. Who it's about respect. It's about doing honorable things, but it's not about honor with anybody. You know, we're talking about all this stuff, and it's great to say truth, justice, and the American way. Um, but when it comes right down to it, in the end, and I think that's why The Boys is such a great series on Amazon Prime, because they have the heroes as the heels, and
Yep.
so you know it's the same thing. It really is in life. That's the way I look at it, and everybody wants to say it's not, and it's so real black and white, cut and dry, but it's not. And that's what's missing is the compelling characters. You have Homelander in The Boys, and you have Shawn Michaels, or you had Shawn Michaels, Heartbreak Kid. Cody Rhodes, when he comes back, uh, I don't know if his momentum is going to be hard to gain again. But even so, as I could see him as a brilliant heel, trying to be a baby face, believing he's a baby face, and
Yeah.
people saying, "Oh my God, you nihilistic, narcissistic dog." And he's looking innocently like, "What do you mean? I'm doing this all for you." I could see that, and it's authentic, and that's what's missing in not just wrestling, but a lot of things these days. So you know, it's Sean was great for what he was. He knew who he was. He met somebody, fell in love, has kids now. You know, wants to just do his thing and not cause any problems, I guess. I honestly, God, don't know what the agenda is these days.
So, Mark, if I can pull it up here, it says, who was HBK's first match? First match on record is this guy, Art Cruz, who you may know from Mid South Wrestling all the way back in October of '84. So, Michael's, he's been wrestling for quite a while. Tim says the Jose Lothario story was so lame for HBK, meaning that like his babyface run was like, oh, Jose trained me. It was really lame. It was like typical, I don't know, like '70s style babyface push.
Well, I don't know whose idea that was, but I have an idea. I mean, I have an idea, but I don't really know. And I don't know if Shawn was. I don't think Shawn was real tickled about it either. Uh, he wanted the spotlight to himself, so that's cool. But there was a lot of lame stuff back then too. That wasn't the only thing.
Jeff's Variety Channel. Some wrestlers claim to see HBK act a bit differently backstage after claiming he has changed his ways. Did you see him on professional or treat people a certain way?
Did I?
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Well, I think that's one of those things I neither can confirm or not confirm happened. But um, yeah, I saw Shawn being an ass more than once. I don't want to get into it, but
Oh,
sure.
damn, I was hoping you would get into
No,
it.
no, 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 no. See, because then I'll have that. I'll close that door as I'm talking, lead into another one. I don't want to.
Were you there for any of the Brett, like Shawn pull aparts when Brett pulled his hair out and stuff? Like, were you
I
there
was
for that?
I was in the building and didn't witness it. I was there the
Uh,
day that he pulled out. Brett pulled out Shawn's hair, and Shawn brought it into the office where Jim Cornette was with Vince, and I guess Jim took the hair. But I was in the building that day. Uh, yeah, but I never witnessed any physicality between Brett and Shawn.
So as far as you and Michaels, there obviously were both in the Royal Rumble 1995. There's this match on Superstars, a 20-man battle royal won by the British Bulldog. Obviously, Michaels won Royal Rumble 95, but there was a match on Superstars on 5/16/95 in Danbury, Connecticut. You and Michaels had a pretty good, albeit short, TV match,
Yeah.
but it was a good match. I don't know if you remember that at all.
Well, I remember Jimmy was at ringside, both Jimmys, and we used a racket or something for a spot outside, and then I was eating the was it the sharpshooter or super kick?
Super kick.
Okay, because you had something else he was putting on too. Oh wait, that was for the screw job. My bad. Sorry.
David says HBK is the GOAT.
He's one of them. I mean, he did have talent. Can't say he wasn't.
Do you believe there? Mark says, do you believe there's a better worker than Shawn?
No. Do you believe you were a better worker than Shawn? No.
Oh, I'm sorry. I read that wrong. I thought I
Yes, you did.
just
That's
went
why.
by too quick. Yeah. Do you believe you were a better worker than Shawn? I'm sorry.
No, I don't.
Do you believe there was a better worker than Shawn? I think there's a bunch, but
I think there's because the worker goes all the way around to me though. Shawn worked his way to where he could get his way. That's a pretty good worker. To be able to work Vince McMahon and letting you get by with whatever you want to get by with, that's a pretty good worker.
yeah. For
Yeah.
some reason, Perry James is very disappointed in you. Why, Perry? Why?
Perry, let me say this. Sometimes when your heart is troubled and hurting, as obviously yours is, all it needs is a soothing voice. I would suggest listening to Dolly Parton 9 to 5 religiously, repeatedly for the next 5 weeks. From the minute you wake until the minute you go. On a loop. 9 to 5. Dolly Parton. Your heart will feel so much better afterwards. And this crankiness,
I think he's pulling a
edginess.
heel move. Yeah. Yeah.
This is stemming from heartache and other things that have tortured him throughout his life, and he wants to take it on other people. He's been fixated on me for a while. I can't understand why, but he thinks that his anger and frustration in life should spill over to anyone who's next to him. And I think I bought him, I don't know, bought him a drink one time, and he spilled it and thought I was obligated to buy him another one. So he's angry still.
Ah.
Yeah, that's a problem.
Did the click ever rib you personally?
Nope. Never did. I got along with everybody pretty much in the click. The BSK. Man, I was trying to stay on neutral on a neutral island, and if I was somewhere and they walked in, I would congregate to them or back and forth. And anyway, didn't have a whole lot of.
Where's Marty the Party Jannetty from James?
I don't
I'd love to
know.
know that as well.
Yeah, when's the last time you talked to Marty?
Oh my God, it's been a while.
Yeah,
Love
me
Marty,
too.
but it's been a while.
I thought I would have saw him at WrestleCade, but I didn't this year or last year, Thanksgiving. So I don't know where Marty is. I hope he's okay.
Remember he said he murdered somebody and got away with it, and then he took it back? Remember that?
I don't think he knows the rules, man. Like
Yeah.
you can't play like that and tell everybody, say, hey, man, I murdered a dude and I'll murder you too. And I'm just kidding. Yeah, you can't say that. So I don't know.
Jamie did not like the Dolly Parton reference. Come on, guys.
How can you not like Dolly Parton? 9
Some
to
Ozzy.
5.
Yeah, I prefer
No,
Ozzy.
no,
Yeah.
no. This for you. You don't know Perry James. See, I know Perry James.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I do. I know
It's
Perry.
more
James.
directed towards him than
Yes.
the music.
No.
Okay.
Was it? No. I'm a doctor. I know one fix doesn't treat all. No, Perry James has anger and hurt in his heart. He has a tortured soul, and Dolly Parton, the patron saint of Tennessee, can cure her. Working 9 to 5
Right.
is enough. Sure. Pour a cup of ambition. Oh, Dolly Parton, break the tear to my eye every time.
Good question here from Jeff. What was it like? Super Bowl of wrestling, Smoky Mountain Wrestling. When Shawn came in, he defended the Intercontinental title against Buddy Landell, who was managed by Jim Cornette that night, and he was in the main event. You guys, if you remember, you guys defeated the Thugs that night, and Undertaker beat Unabomb.
Yeah,
Good show.
we got blood that night too, and I think I've heard Jim tell the story. Shawn never said anything to me, but I don't know why he would. But we had him. You're right. If that was the night because it was Jimmy Del Rey and Jim Cornette in our corner against Tracy Smothers and the Dirty White Boy, and we got a lot of blood in that match right before the main event. And Shawn was hot because the ring was covered in blood. He didn't want to go in the ring with blood. At least that was his excuse or explanation. And I guess they cleaned it up and went in. But it was when we didn't get a chance to watch any of the show that night because there was, I think, everybody else that was on the card. When you don't get to see people like that all the time, we were in the back talking and having a really good time. So that was how that was. I remember who was Terry Funk on that card? Who else was on that card?
Terry Gordy was on that card. Severin Jannetty was actually on that card. PG-13, Headbangers, Brad Armstrong. There's a bunch of really.
So Brad, that's what I'm saying. We were probably hanging out because we didn't get to see those guys or whatever it was. I don't know. There have been some of those shows where I think that was it because I don't remember seeing Shawn and Buddy. I just remember going over the match, and then there was no place to really watch in the Coliseum, so we just kind of hung back.
Changing gears here, let's answer some random questions. J-Rock, hey, Mr. Prichard, what are your thoughts on FBR specifically being called the best tag team in the world?
I have to agree. I think they're awesome. I think, and again, I go back to why that makes them or what makes them the best tag team in the world. The fact that they can tell stories, and the fact that they're getting attention and they're being allowed to at least do their matches. That's awesome because they can show a new generation of kids that doing those matches, when done correctly and when done with people that people care about. Um, I know I read something the other day where they said they didn't know who was Cash and who was Dax. Okay, I get that. I totally understand that too. At the same time, if you stop and watch the match, if you listen to the commentators, if you really want to hear it, sometimes I turn them down because I don't want to hear it. But they go out and they tell a story like nobody else can or nobody else does these days. I haven't seen the Briscoe FTR match, but I heard that was pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you have to find tag teams that can do that style to where it makes people interested in seeing that because to me that they add high spots in there and they add exciting stuff to their matches. That's more exciting and detailed and takes more to put that together than just putting moves together. So yeah, long story short, I think my thoughts are they're an awesome team. And I think being called the best tag team in the world is apropos.
Yeah, they're the best. Can't believe they don't know Dax is bald. Cash is
Right.
not. It's
Right.
pretty easy.
Because they're
Both
not
are
trying
awesome,
that
man.
hard. They're obviously, it is to the point where they go out and they do such good teamwork. You're not necessarily thinking about who is uh, Dash or Dax or whatever.
Dax and Cash, yeah.
Yes.
From Mike, we need a brother love show on SmackDown with Hulk Hogan versus Roman Reigns at SummerSlam. That would be a dream come true. I would love
Oh,
it.
of course. Hogan versus Roman Reigns for SummerSlam. Well,
Hulk
hey,
will be 70 this year, by the
yeah,
way.
well, gosh, 70. 70. Okay.
You believe
Yeah.
that?
Well, I can't
Todd,
believe
just
it.
talk about different payoffs, different companies, and the best year money wise.
Well, in the beginning, territories were when you get paid off the house. So if you were in a good territory, you could really get really good payoffs. If you're in a so-so territory, it was usually the guarantee was, and you had to sign contracts back then when they had commissions, and they would have you sign a contract where it says you were owed $25, and that was, but you would get more than $25 usually, and but most payouts were $40, $60, unless you went somewhere good, and the most money was in WWE. For me, that was the most money. I've heard Ricky talk before about his biggest year and best year, and I'm thinking that can't be true because these guys were over with merchandise, and I believe they were getting cut of that too. So just by numbers alone, it didn't add up to me. But he's the one who did it. I didn't. So
Interesting. From Douglas, back in USWA, you were doing a very Piper-esque gimmick. What made you want to emulate Piper? Was this your decision or the Booker's? Thank you, longtime fan of your work.
it was one of those things where on a morning, Saturday morning after coming in Friday night, and I always thought Roddy Piper was one of the best, and I always thought Roddy Piper uh, was one of the coolest guys backstage because he never changed. He treated everybody with respect, and he was good to the young guys. He knew what it was like, and it came out that way. And I didn't do it intentionally, but I did it intentionally to change the way I was doing it that way. Roddy, I thought did it great, and yeah, I ripped him off totally, and I told him that one time. My father had a heart attack, and Bruce and I were at home in Houston. I was the only one home, and Roddy called. And I answered, and he goes, "Can I speak to Bruce?" I said, "Well, he's not here right now." I asked who's calling. Didn't recognize the voice. He said, "Well, just tell him Roddy called. I'll call him back." I said, "Roddy, this is Tom." He goes, "Oh man, how are you?" He was always cool. I met Roddy in Frisco when I first started in San Francisco, or not Frisco, San Jose. And I said, "Man, I just got to tell you, I had heard that Rick Rude, Sherry Martel, and some of the WWE guys were watching the USWA show. This is when USW was playing on ESPN in the afternoons. We'd do the Dallas stuff, and I would do commentary at the desk too." And Rude said something like, "Listen to that guy trying to be Piper." And Roddy said, "Well, don't worry about it. You're doing a great job. Keep doing what you're doing. I don't give a fuck." "Well, thank you. I love you. If I'm going to copy anybody, I'm going to copy from the best." He says, "I love you too. I'll call you guys later." And it was that. So yeah, I knew it was Piper, yes, but it did feel for me looking for a voice. It was total rip off, and people can say that all day long. If anything, it was an homage to Roddy. Yeah, no
Right.
doubt, no doubt. And if there was anybody to look up to, it would have been him.
The doctor says, "No offense. Are you still vain about your hair? I always remember you messing with your hair. It's character. Were you working a bit with the hair?"
Doctor Who, what, where? There is no offense taken whatsoever. The only thing that would offend me is if Perry James actually had a valid point and put it up there. No, I don't know that I've ever been completely or vain about my hair, but I don't want to be bald. And again, no disrespect to bald people, but I like taking care of my hair, shampooing regularly, and there was a time where I didn't cut my hair much. And then, have you seen Joe Elliott from Def Leppard lately?
No, not lately. No.
Well, he looks like not even my grandma. My grandma's dead, but he does look like a dead grandma. The white hair and it just, and I thought, no, I I'm cool. I'll just
Wow,
keep my hair the
this was
way
a couple years ago, but I saw them in concert like 2 or 3 years in a row, and
Yeah. Yeah,
wow, so you
they're
got like
touring. They're touring this summer, and they had something on Facebook again, and they're showing the stage and the people from stage view and everything. Then he'll shoot it back on him, and I went, "Oh my god, looks like my grandma."
wow,
If I had a grandma,
it's crazy. Look at Jamie says, "You guys know your stuff. What's your names?" Obviously, John Potts. This is Dr. Tom Prichard.
wait a minute, whoa, stop,
Jamie's new to the show here as he's coming
I
in.
get it, but hold on, you guys know your stuff. Okay, hold on, Jamie.
Taking you to school. Little lesson there. There you go.
There's a K in there somewhere.
Yeah.
How do you know?
Jason's got a good question for you. Did you ever work with Percy Pringle in Texas early days or somewhere in the South?
No, I didn't. Not during those Texas days. I did not, but that I met him when we went to WWE, and of course, I had known about him because I knew his I knew about his exploits in Texas. I knew him and Michael and Robert had known each other from Pensacola. So I mean, that was the cool thing when you got in. When I broke in 1979, I remember talking and hearing about different guys from other territories, and I'd be talking to one of the guys who we were working with regularly, and he would bring up a story. He goes, "Man, you guys would get along great." That's what they said about like Brett Sawyer and anyway, some other guys. So, but I'd heard about Percy, but I didn't work with him until I actually got to WWF.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Rick's got a question for you. How far do your wrestling memories go back? I recall from the early 60s. I was born in 56. What about you, Dr. Tom? You remember those early days?
Oh, yeah, I do. I was born in 59, so we're not that far off. And every time I see an old Lubbock newspaper clipping or El Paso, I had a scrapbook growing up with all those clippings in it. And I saved it for years. And when the Funking Dojo was starting in Stanford, I gave it to Dory Funk Jr. I actually brought it. I actually went to Ocala for a seminar, and I brought it, and I gave it to Dory because I asked him. I said, "Do you have any of the stuff when you're on the road?" He goes, "No." He all he did was work, and there was no place. You're going on the road pretty much every day, so you didn't have a lot of room in a suitcase, I guess. But I gave him that because it was a lot of him and uh, some real cool stuff in there. But every time, I remember the early '60s and the posters and the just the gimmicks and the outrageousness. And when everybody would tell you, that's all phony. Well, I'd watch guys like the Inferno throw fire. I'd watch guys like Terry Funk or the Von Brauners, and these guys were vicious. At least that's the way they came across to me. So, yeah, I love it.
Hey, Bo James, the king of Kingsport. Percy was a wonderful person. Nice to hear from
Yes,
Bo.
he was. Percy was a wonderful person.
I,
Yeah, he was a lot of fun.
I believe Dr. Tom trained Vince McMahon. That is correct. You are correct, Barbara.
That is correct, Barbara. I'm the
One
guy to. Yeah.
one final question for you, which will lead it right into the plugs here. Does Dr. Tom have a T-shirt store? I'll buy one, put money in your pocket. Yes, you actually do.
Yes, I do. That's prowrestlingtees.com, and I have my own store, and JPWA also has their own store. I think if you just go to PWTs, correct? It's
Yep. Pro Wrestling
PWTees.com
Tees. Yep. Pro
or
Wrestling Tees.
prowrestlingtees.com. I think you have to spell it out. And then you put the either Tom Prichard or JPWA after that, and or ask you what the store's name is. Check them out. There's a lot of cool t-shirts there.
And of course, the book. She wants us to advertise the book, Pro Wrestling Curriculum, Advice, Suggestions, and Stories to help the aspiring pro get to the next level. Dr. John, where can they get the book?
You can get the book. Go to our website, jpwrestlingacademy.com. Hit the home page. It'll be right there in front of you in your naked steaming eyes. And order one from Amazon, jpwrestlingacademy.com.
Dr. Tom for the Hall of Fame. I totally agree. One more little final question to sneak in just because I'm familiar with this, obviously. Speaking of the Funks, have either of you heard about Terry Funk lately? It's been on my mind. Actually, heard he's been doing pretty good because John Crowther, who's going to do some sort of comic book with him, he just posted that Terry had signed some autographs for him, and they just started a Kickstarter. So it's under Terry Funk if you go under Kickstarter, and it's a comic book series that Terry agreed to do. And he has a picture. Manny Fernandez actually with Terry from like a few weeks ago signed a bunch of stuff. He got a Hall of Fame, all this stuff. So John Crowther, if you follow John, he's got all the latest on Terry Funk. Seems like he's doing good. Seems like he's doing better.
I hate it when our heroes start going away. He was definitely one of my heroes all the way through the business. Yep.
So, hitting the plugs again, you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at 2Man Power Trip. Check out the website, tmptempire.com. Of course, you can follow Dr. Tom at Dr. Tom Prichard on Twitter. Dr. Tom, what else you got going on in this?
Man, like I said, we just started this first week of the summer class of 2022, JPWA, and I'm gearing up for that, getting ready. It's going to be exciting. Next 3 months, and I've got some out of town stuff coming up, but I'll talk about that when we get closer.
Nice. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Matty R. Thank you, everybody out
Matt.
there for listening. We'll see you right back here next week for a little Take It to School with Dr. Tom Prichard. See you next week, folks.